Welcome to this overview of Craig Groeschel's book, Winning the War in Your Mind, subtitled Change Your Thinking, Change Your Life. This book is about breaking free from the daily battle with self-doubt and negative thinking, because our lives are always moving in the direction of our strongest thoughts. The book starts with a recognition: perception is reality. If we believe it is so, it is so. But how often do we check the truth of what we believe to be true? Because when we identify the lie, it can be replaced with a real truth, which means liberation is a simple two-step process. Remove the lie and replace it with a real truth. But unfortunately, that is exactly where the battle in our mind begins, because we cannot change what we don't confront, and confrontation means accepting the narrative is inside our head. Craig shares there was a lie he believed and held on to, no matter the evidence to the contrary. And this lie was, no matter how hard I try, I'll never measure up. And he believes it arose from how he perceived himself and his family in relation to others. And that meant success became defined as not failing. And perceptions of failure led to running away. Becoming a thought warrior requires us to know two truths. First, the battle for your life is won or lost in your mind. And second, your thoughts will control you, so you have to control your thoughts. And those words were written by the Apostle Paul millennia ago, so it's not New Age thinking. But Paul also admitted he had not understood why he did what he hated but avoided what he wanted, until he started to live these two truths. First, the battle for your life is won or lost in your mind. And second, your thoughts will control you, so you have to control your thoughts. For most of us, our starting point is we are numbing ourselves to our reality by keeping ourselves busy and distracted. However, those days need to be over if we want to win the battle in our minds, because we need to listen to what we are thinking so we are clear where we're dodging bullets and running blindly towards landmines. We need to understand what are our strongest thoughts and where they are leading us, because we cannot just change our behavior, because sooner or later the original issue will just re-establish itself. The first step, therefore, is recognizing the lies we believe and base our lives on are strongholds that we need to demolish, because those lies are harming us. For Craig, these lies included he could never be enough, good enough, smart enough, or successful enough. It didn't matter that he was aware God tells us we don't need to be enough. The strong hold those lies had on him meant deep down he felt the truth applied to everyone else, but not to him. Craig shares once we know those lies that are derailing us, the good news, that we're likely to label bad news, is we can't win the war on our own. But it is good because we can ask God to show us the lies we are believing and to fill our mind with his truths instead. Now, if you're not spiritually minded, you might be thinking, yeah, right. But think of this like any other form of communication. Few know how phone, fax, or internet connections work, but we see a result, so we trust it's possible. So Craig is effectively telling us a similar effect is in operation. And finally, knowing those lies identifies the prison we're holding ourselves in, and that allows us to start working on releasing ourselves. To get to this point is a three-step process. Identify the problem, ask probing questions, and pinpoint the lie. An example Craig gives is the problem of huge consumer debt, because you're always buying the newest and the best. Now, your questions may be things like, why am I doing this? When did this start? How does this make me feel? Is fear driving this? And if so, what am I afraid of? Is there a certain trigger that prompts this behavior? And if so, why do I often spend so compulsively? Then pinpoint the lie in your answers, which may be something like, if I had more, I would be happy. The next step is then to replace it with the truth and watch each time the lie tries to re-establish itself. Craig shares for him the problem was he was shortchanging his family by working very long hours. And the lie in this was that all his striving to overachieve was to honour God, when in reality it was to hide his deficits and compensate for his weaknesses in a desperate need to win others' approval. And his God's truth was, our value is based not on what we do, but on who made us. From here, the next step is to find a solution that is aligned to how we currently think, rather than how we currently act, because our behaviour is the result of our thinking rather than the reverse. Therefore, we need to work on changing the neural pathway behind our identified lies. Otherwise, it is like cutting a branch off a tree and expecting the tree to disappear. And to build a new supportive neural pathway, we need to go deeper than just taking on the words of our identified truth. We need to internalize them, which we can do by making declarations. Craig's declaration to overcome his fear of not having enough money is, money is not and never will be a problem for me. My God is an abundant provider who meets every need. Because I am blessed, I will always be a blessing. I will lead the way with irrational generosity because I know it's truly more blessed to give than to receive. In the beginning, the lie will still feel the stronger of the two, but if you keep internalizing your declaration will become your stronger belief and eventually your default way of thinking. So write it down and meditate on it so you can see the truth in what you are reading and saying, and take it on deeper and deeper until you believe it. And this is your new autopilot truth. Other ways of identifying the lies you are living by is look at what you're controlling. It may be as simple as the TV remote, always driving the car, etc. Or look at what you'll say to those around you to get them to behave as you want them to, because these things tell you how you are seeing the world and how the world is seeing you. But like meditating on your new truth, you can also alter your perception of the meaning of the things that have happened or will happen to you and rewrite them into a new truth. And we can do this through the steps of staying calm, identifying the situation, identifying our automatic thoughts, and finding objective supporting evidence. Because you can't control what happens to you, but you can control how you frame it. So how to reframe our past? Thank God for what he did and didn't do. Or for the non-religious, recognize that within everything that we think is an unanswered prayer for what we want is the seeds of the path we were meant to be on, even if it didn't seem to be so at the time. So look back and see where those seemingly bad events led you to other opportunities, the ones you wouldn't have had if what you wanted had been delivered, and where those opportunities led if you took them up. So what about reframing your future? You will find what you are looking for. So pre-frame. That is how you will choose to see something. For example, if it doesn't work out as I want it to work out, I will look for what I have learned and the opportunities it has put in front of me and build on those things to try again, rather than I failed, life hates me. Because we can't control what happens to us, but we can control how we frame the outcome even before it happens. But another part of the process is to identify what it is that causes us to panic and or shut down because we feel we cannot take it anymore. And to do this, we need to unpack the unusual, unhealthy, and unsustainable drivers of our fear, and then reinforce the truth we uncover via a liberating declaration. Craig says, my experience plus God's presence is enough. Because remembering God is always present means you will talk to him rather than try to go it alone, which fits the game-changing truth. If it's big enough to worry about, then it's big enough to pray about, and if it's on your mind, then it's on God's heart. And do it your way. There aren't any rules, so just do it, as it will change your brain and thereby your thinking. This is an easy-to-read book with stories, examples, and Bible and science references to make its points, as well as exercises to assist you to work through the points from each chapter. It is divided into 4 parts: the replacement principle, the rewire principle, the reframe principle, and the rejoice principle. This is an excellent book for those identifying as Christian and who want to break free from the spiral of destructive thinking with God's support. However, if you are not a Christian, some of the Bible references may seem intrusive. Nevertheless, if you can focus on the concepts being discussed, then this isn't likely to be an issue, and you will still be able to take away the guidance on breaking free from the spiral of destructive thinking. Thank you for viewing this video. Please like and subscribe and click on the notification bell to be advised when further book overviews are uploaded. And to help me grow this channel's reach, please share the link with others.